Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live stream. My name is Wes, and I will be your host. Today, I have with me Sebastian, Vice President of 3D and Immersive at Adobe, and Jérémie, Principal Product Manager for Entertainment. We also have our main man, Vincent, running the chat. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so please post your questions in the chat, and Vincent will send us the list. We have many interesting things to share with you today, and we're going to kick things off with an introduction from Seb with the Community Showcase. Seb, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Wes. Hopefully you can hear me okay. First, welcome everyone. Super glad to have this live stream and to be able to connect with the community one more time, especially in these troubled times. So I hope you're all doing well. First, I want to say this, I want to say stay safe, take care of yourself and of others if you have the ability to, because these are really troubled times, and hopefully we can get out of these very quickly. It's been actually humbling, and we're super glad to see how the community is still so active during these times, and that's a blessing. And we're very happy to see such creativity out there, and the need for creative tools remaining high, because there is a need for people to express themselves, I guess. And even if it's at home, if it's at the office, it doesn't change much. That people need to express themselves. So the need for creative tools is still here, and we hope we can. With what we do, we definitely hope we can, help people express themselves and still perform at home and do their job, or just enjoy creating. So that was my intro message, I would say. Glad to be here again. Troubled times. Stay safe and take care. Yes. So now let's start this live stream with a community showcase. And the first one is, if Jérémie, you can share the screen now, is not actually directly coming from the community itself. It is from NVIDIA, and it's so it's not like, technically it's not like a community art piece, but because it's been done by a great team of very talented artists behind it. But I really wanted to emphasize on that demo, because arguably it's one of the best looking and most impressive and most inspiring real-time demo ever made, in my opinion. And it is really, I used to play the original Marble Madness on Atari a long time ago. And so when I saw this, I really loved the revival of that game. And it's a realistic version of it. And of course, the quality of it comes from the quality of the rendering. Here, NVIDIA is showcasing the impact RTX has, and a real-time ray tracing can have on real-time graphics. But also, we were happy, and I was super happy to know that all the materials were done with Substance. So this is something really unique, and personally, I've never seen such a beautiful, inspiring, and technically impressive real-time demo ever. So that's great. So now back to the community. We try to do that every time, and we try to showcase a few pieces of art that we really appreciated, and for various reasons, by our users, not the professional users, but the people at home. And it's always a tribute to the community of people using our tools. This one is incredible. And actually, what I love about this, and not only is it very well executed and technically very impressive, but it's twice Jim Carrey, but with different look, right? And it's the same model, same look, same gaze, but the result and the emotion that is conveyed is very different, obviously, because of the makeup on the right versus no makeup and a beard on the left. So you see once again that a very slight change, a very subtle change in the textures can make a huge difference here again. So that's great. Speaking of great execution, I love this org. We need to have beautiful creatures like this at every show we do. So beautiful work. I love the amount of details, like the tattoos, the scars, the damaged AI, the flies, the dirt, the hair. That's actually very, very impressive. When you look at all the details, there's a lot of things going on that image. So beautiful, beautiful work as well. Speaking of materials, like I love this image as well. It's a beautiful idea first, like playing with the very materials, not only the appearance of these materials, but also their physical properties. And it, like having a wood behaving like this is possible in a computer as a CGI, but not so much in real life. Or very complicated, very complicated to do. I love how this idea of materials can be extended and bypassed somehow, and that image is very cool. This one also like a more traditional type of work, but beautiful environment, beautiful lighting, beautiful rendering, beautiful materials. This is a beautiful image. Like it makes us feel like a bit more zen, I guess, but it's really well done. Beautiful job here again. Now for something different, like for environment work, we picked this one from Javier Perez, who is one of the best substance designer artists out there. It's great environment work, and usually you would do this environment by modeling all the elements and texturing all these elements. But what is interesting here is that actually there is no modeling. The modeling is very bare and very simple, and actually everything is in texture. And so this is this idea of I've been pushing on Twitter and more, this idea of like there is a blurry line between modeling and texturing, and whether you place the cursor on the left or on the right, like it's up to you, and it's a matter of choice, creative choices. And Substance Designer allows you for this type of choices. Here is one more example of that. It's very meta. That image is very meta. It's done by Enrico. Enrico is one of the best substance designer artists out there, and this is a representation of all the nodes that you can find in Substance Designer in 3D. And actually, but this is a graph. This is one texture. There are no polygons on that image again. So it's very meta. It's a Substance Designer material representing the very elements that have been used to create these materials. So we wanted to show that because it's an environment work. It's more a concept art type of work, and it's been made with using both Medium for the sculpts and Photoshop. And it's great to see 3D more and more used to create 2D concept art. And so the mix of 2D and 3D is something that we see more prevalent than before. And tools like Medium really help here. And today we'll be focusing mostly on Substance and Medium, and you will have news about Medium later during the presentation this morning. But this image is really something that we love to see. A beautiful piece of work combining the power of 2D and 3D tools. Speaking of which, combining power of 2D and 3D tools, same idea here. Some elements here are 3D. And the characters have been, like the faces have been actually painted. And it's a mix of 2D and 3D. I love like the expression. I love the movement. I love the lighting in the hair of the central character. It's a very beautifully crafted mix of 2D and 3D scene here. Speaking of mix, I love that image. And it's a crossover between Mandalorian in Mario, what not to love here, right? So I love the Yoshi baby Yoda, and beautifully craft, love the atmosphere, love the vibe. So you've seen, we try to pick images that not only are very impressive technically and very well crafted, but also are telling a story. So that's great. And speaking of story, this is again a beautiful, powerful artwork. And not only is it super well executed, I love especially the tension on the lips, which are pulled by the tape and the movement of that tape being removed. And yeah, speaking of stories, let me say I'm happy to see that young lady speak up. So that's a beautiful piece here as well. And this last piece is interesting, and there are close-ups on the page from Amaru, again, one of the best artists, 3D artists out there. And this piece is interesting because it's using the latest version of Substance Painter, which has a full support for UV tiles or UDIMs, depending on the convention you want to use, and the full support of the latest way of dealing with UDIMs and UV tiles in Substance Painter. And this is a result. If you look at the web page and the ArtStation page for that specific asset by Amaru, you will see close-ups and the level of details you can obtain using Substance Painter now and this new iteration. So that's it for me for the community showcase. I will come back for another section later, but thank you all for being here again. And I leave you, Jérémie, to do the demo now.
Thanks so much, Seb, for the introduction and showcasing all the inspiring artwork from the community. We're always thrilled and humbled to see the work that's produced. So now we're going to move over to Jérémie, our principal product manager, to showcase our recent product updates. Jérémie, over to you, and take it away when you're ready.
Thank you, Wes. Thank you, Seb. All right, so we're going to start by Substance Painter. We're going to kind of showcase all the different tools we have, and we're going to start with Substance Painter, because that was the big news. Big news of last week was the release of Substance Painter with the UV tile, and I think it actually deserves a little bit more than just a bullet point, but it's been in the work for so long. So let's have something a little more interesting. All right, it's here. It's for real. We can't believe it ourselves. I know you guys have been asking it for years. We've been wanting it for years, and it's finally here. So I'm going to show you a little bit of a demo of how this works. I'm just going to go through kind of different parts of this because it's such a huge feature. There's a lot of different parts in Painter that are related to it. So of course, the main feature is that you can paint seamlessly between dozens of UV tiles. So we call them UV tiles. You may know them as UDIM. UDIM is a very specific convention of naming convention and the way the tiles are assembled. We chose to name the feature UV tiles because we could potentially support other standards in the future and not just UDIM. So you can paint seamlessly across UV tiles. You can also paint with particles across those UV tiles. And we added a few new features, a few new concepts around it. So one of them is a UV tile mask. And what it allows you is to create mask based on the tiles rather than just painting those masks. You can actually mask specific tiles. And you'll see that it's useful for performance optimization, but also for being able to hide some parts of the mesh when you want to paint something that may be a little inaccessible because the mesh is so complex. You can change the resolution of each individual tile separately. And you'll see that we did some improvements to the layer stack as well, and to the baking and expo dialogues to support UDIMs. So let's go into Painter a little bit. And here I have a really cool asset. It has millions of polygons. It's very complex. It's typically something you would use for a movie quality asset. And we have 57 tiles in there. That's quite a lot of tiles. Right now, all these tiles are in 2K because for the demo purpose, I just want it to be super snappy and not wait when I apply some materials. But you'll see that you can actually work in 2K and export in 4K or 8K really fast at the end. All right, so first thing first, I can, of course, paint across UV tiles. So I can grab my brush and paint across all these tiles. There's actually already, I think, 7 or 8 tiles on the head itself. And I can, of course, paint across all of it. And you'll see that on all of these tiles, I actually have my bakes set up. And so the baking interface has been a little updated with a new selection window that allows you to select which tiles you're going to bake. And that's very useful because until now, you could only bake one or all the content in the project. And on a project like this, you may just want to bake only one or two. So you don't want to have to bake all of it. So it's already pre-baked here, and you can see in my project, I have my baked resources. So each bake has actually 56 bakes in it, and all this is applied on the mesh here. So let's go ahead and start texturing this guy. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go in my smart materials, and I'm going to start with some rubber, for example. So let's get some rubber. And if I drag and drop that rubber on here, what it will do is we'll apply that rubber on all 57 tiles. So you can see here all the tiles being applied, and every time the smart material will look at the base and apply it. It's already pretty fast. But in this case, I really just want to apply it on the head. I'm just texturing the head now. I don't want to have to go through all of these tiles every time I apply something. So what I can do is create a folder, and this is going to be my head. And then I'm going to go in the UV tile mask, and this is that little new icon here. And so let me deactivate my rubber so we see a little better what's going on. So you can see that I have a little highlight here, and that's because I'm in UV tile mask. And here I can actually choose which tile I'm going to be masking or not. So I can click on them here, or I can click on them on the 2D view. And I know that my head is actually all these 7 tiles up here on my head. So what I'll do is I'll exclude all the tiles and just select those ones. That way now everything I do, everything I place in this folder will just be applied to the head only. So if I drag my rubber into my folder now, over here, and there we go, and I apply it now, I kind of activate it now, it's only the head. And you can see I just applied very quickly compared to having to apply it on the whole body. So I actually want that rubber to be on one of my IDs. So I'll just go ahead and add a color selection and pick which ID I want it on. And there we go. I'm gonna hide my oops, sorry, not this guy. I'm gonna hide my painting over here. All right, so now I can add some more smart materials. So I have one that is really cool, is that tool, the tool one. And again, I want it only on the head, so I'm just going to drag and drop it in my folder over here and just apply it on the head almost instantly. And I have all this cool kind of rusty and scratchy material out of it. And again, I'm just going to grab and pick a color. There we go. Now I have several smart materials I want to apply on there. What I can do, one of the new features we have is that you can pause the engine. So if you know you're going to do a series of actions and you don't want to wait every time to for the Substance engine to kind of calculate those every time you apply those, you can just pause the engine, and then you can do a series of action, and the engine will start recomputing only when you're done with all your actions. So I'm gonna have another smart material here. I'm gonna drag and drop it here. As you can see, it's not doing anything in the viewport right now. It's really just waiting for me to trigger the engine back. So again, pick a color selection. I'm gonna grab this guy, and I'm gonna get another smart material. Again, I'm gonna drag and drop it here, and I want this guy to be maybe on those yellow parts, and on this black part, and on the green part over here. And once I'm done, I can just unpause it, and then the engine will calculate everything that I've been doing and apply all my different smart materials. All right, so I'm pretty advanced already in my texturing. I can now create a paint layer in here. And same thing, if I start painting in my folder, you'll see that the paint will kind of not go on the other parts of my mesh. It will just stay on the head because that's the only thing I'm painting right now. So I'm gonna paint some red paint. So let's go with a kind of darker, little height, kind of roughness here. Let's see, yeah, that looks good. That will look like paint. And then I'm gonna go grab a little stencil that I'm gonna put in my brush here. I can move that stencil around for my projection, and let's do a little painting over here. And then I can reduce my flow a little bit, and then I can start kind of paint my little paint area here. So I can just paint here. The thing is, if I want to paint at some place that's kind of hidden, so let's say I want to paint some detail in here, that's going to get a little harder because there's stuff that there's just geometry in the way, and that's where the tile mask can be useful as well. So what I'll do is I'll create a new paint layer over here, and I'm going to use the tile mask again. And this time I'm going to exclude everything but just this tile. All right, so I'm just going to keep this one only. And then when I come back in my paint layer, I have these new options here that allows me to hide everything but that tile. And so now I'm hiding all the geometry but the geometry in that tile, and I can actually go in here and kind of paint whatever I want, which was not accessible before because of all the other geometry around it. When I'm done, I can just go back here and I'm done. So that's kind of an overview of how the Udemy works. It's very similar to the regular Painter workflow, just has a few more options. And last thing I want to show you is just the export process. So when we export, again, you have access to all the different tiles, and you can choose which one to export. In this case, I just want to export the head, so I'm just gonna uncheck all my tiles, and I know that the head is there's like 7 last tiles. So I'm just gonna select those. And my settings, I've been working in 2K, but I actually want to export in 4K. So I'm just gonna go ahead over here on my texture set and say, I actually want to export in 4K. And you'll see here the list of textures I'm exporting. So I'm exporting 56 4K textures. It's a lot. Let's hit export. And you'll see that the export is going to be really fast. And one thing that used to happen before, if you had a very large project in Painter, is that an export like this, almost 50 texture in 4K, could take up to half an hour to export. You'll see that now it's going to export probably in around 30 seconds. And the whole project with 56 tiles, fully textures, only take a couple of minutes to export, while it would take almost an hour before. And there it is, all my 4K tiles exported. That's it for my demo of Painter. Let's switch back to our slides. One thing that I didn't really that I showed a little bit here is the performance boost. So we've been working a lot to support this very, very dense, complex project with millions of polygons, tons of UV tiles, and that resulted in a lot of performance improvements in different parts of the tool. One of them is the footprint of the project. It reduced by almost 35% because we used to store all the bakes in RGB. But actually some of the bakes, like the occlusion, curvature are grayscale, and now we store them in grayscale, which is much smaller footprint, and the project size in general gets smaller. The save time has been increased, especially if you were saving one of these huge projects. Before, it could take a few minutes to save, and now we really reduced that by a lot, almost half the time it takes to save those projects. And the biggest change is the export time, which on some project that could take an hour or two, they're down to a couple of minutes. So it's actually up to 90% sometime of export time decreases. And overall, the memory footprint management has been improved to be able to handle those very large projects. So that's about it for Substance Painter. Actually, the last thing I wanna do before switching to Substance Source is you may have seen a couple of months ago we launched a VFX animation show reel, and since we're talking about VFX and UDIMs, we can show it a little bit to you guys today too. So let's roll the video. All right. And we're back. So next up is Substance Source. So you may have seen Substance Source release a few releases recently of materials. We actually have a new batch of material coming today that should be available now, actually. We have a collection of new stylized materials and realistic materials, which I think about 450 of them released today. You may have seen a couple of weeks ago, we also released a fabric and fashion pack. It has all sorts of really cool fabrics and decals and graphics to put on t-shirts and hats and stuff like that. That really allows you to create some very interesting designs. And here are just a few close-ups of those materials with the Substance Source. The Substance Source team has done an amazing job getting all those small details down to the fiber of the material. These are really amazing looking, and some of these materials even have multiple layers that will kind of mix some metallic fibers with the cloth fibers to get some really cool results like these. And we can see here using all these different tools and materials inside of Substance Painter to create a hat design where we can have this. Again, you can see all the different parameters that are tweaked on each decal, and you can tweak the depth of it, the colors, the shapes, to really create some really advanced fashion designs. This is a really cool kid hat with some shiny parts and some cool decal. You can see here again, you can kind of resize the decals the way you want. The texture won't stretch or anything. Just some really cool stuff you can do here. There we go. And also, we want to talk a little bit about partnerships we have in the fashion industry. And we're currently working with both Browseware and Chloe for Marvelous Designer. And both are getting a Substance integration. It's in the works. It will come later this year, and we're super excited about being able to kind of bring closer the clothing and fashion design and the texture and material parts of it. So talking about fashion, while we released that last fashion material drop, we also made a really cool video. A real-time video with all those materials in partnership with Ronan Mahon, and we'd like to show that video again. So let's roll the video. It's better if I unmute myself. Next up is Alchemist. So Alchemist, we had a release a couple months ago. I'm sure you remember that introduced a new AI-based image to material. And since then, we've seen amazing results coming from the community with all those materials being generated from one single photo, fed into the AI image to material in Alchemist, and those amazing materials are created from it. Of course, it's an AI, and like any AI, it can be taught to do more things because it can learn. And so we're currently teaching that AI to work better and to work with more types of materials. Right now, it's really dedicated mostly to outdoor materials for floors and grounds and walls. But we're training it with indoor settings and with fabrics and all kind of other materials to make sure that that AI can generate materials from any kind of photo, from any kind of material. So over time, you'll see that that feature kind of evolve and improve the next few releases. One thing that we're working on with Alchemist is IBL creation also. We've been doing kind of taking one photo and creating a digital material out of it. Now we're looking at taking 360 photos and making lighting out of it, and lighting environment. And in this case, we use that Ricoh Theta camera you see on the left here to capture 360 photos at different exposures. So you can kind of see the different photos with the different exposure here. And then in Alchemist, we have a series of filters that we're currently working on that allow you to actually generate an IBL from those different photos. And here we're generating that HDR IBL by combining all these different photos with different exposure. And we have other tools that allow us also to modify the lighting in those and typically add lights. And like, for example, we have the neon light at the ceiling here, and I can adjust my light to exactly fit that neon light. I can reduce it a little bit to exactly fit the tube of the neon light. And so that way I can add some additional lighting to my scene. I can switch the intensity, the temperature of my neon. And for example, if I want to reduce the overall lighting to have more of a darker setting, but that neon light, I want it to be much stronger to create some additional lighting on my sphere, I can do that. So we're working on a bunch of tools around that, and that will be coming soon to Substance Alchemist. Next up is Designer. So in Designer, we have a new release coming this fall, and has a few new features. Has thumbnail generation. There's a new input exposition dialog, and there's performance improvements, of course, and there's a new Substance engine V8. So I'm gonna do a quick demo in Substance Designer to show you some of those new features. I'm gonna open one of our fabric material from that source drop from last month. You can see it's a fairly complex graph. There's a lot going on in here. If you look at, let me switch to a different shape here. There's a lot of different materials, a lot of different patterns. And so one thing that we added is a thumbnail generation. So now if I click on my graph, here you used to have a way to add a thumbnail, but you would basically have to look for a thumbnail on your hard drive and just add it manually. Now there's a generate thumbnail button, and this will generate a thumbnail using our PBR render node. And basically it allows you to generate thumbnails for all your materials consistently using that simple generate thumbnail feature. Next up is the input exposition dialog. So again, when you wanted to expose an input in Substance Designer, there were different buttons here to create functions or to expose it. There is no one single icon here. And if I choose to expose my new graph input, you'll see that we now have a lot more options here. Until now, if you wanted to expose something, you could expose it. You would just put in an identifier. Then you would have to go in your graph settings, figure out where that is in the list of input. And then there you'll be able to change your description, the groups, minimum, maximum values, default values, all that stuff. Now it's all done while you expose the material in the first place. We also, for the groups here, we also list every existing group in your Substance graph. So you can create a new one, but you can also choose one that was already pre-made for you, which is much easier. And if the parameter had the description that you're exposing, it will also be put here automatically. So let's say if I'm going on a blend here, I know the opacity has a description. And so if I expose it, you see the description here going in. So if you have custom nodes, we've already took the time to put description and everything. If you expose those parameters, it will already be in it. So again, kind of big time saver when exposing multiple parameters in a graph. There's performance improvement. So you may have seen when I first loaded that graph that the 3D view loaded pretty fast. If I go in my kind of the first node of my graph, which is really the fiber for the fabric you see here, and if I randomize it, you'll see that the 2D view update in 1 second, and then the thumbnail start updating over here. So what happened before is that we would generate the whole graph before being able to display the result in the 2D and 3D view. So you had to wait for all the thumbnail to be generated. Now we actually go straight to the output first, so that you get nice feedback right there in the 2D and 3D view, and then we'll generate all the thumbnails afterwards. So cuts the generation, kind of the feedback loop by about sometimes 60%, especially in high resolution. So it's really nice, very nice improvements. And then we can talk about the Substance Engine V8. So V8, when we switch a version of engine in Substance Designer, it means that we added some new features to the core set of nodes in Designer. And so there are a lot of things that are in progress. I won't be able to show all of it because there is still some stuff that we're working on. But some of the stuff that I can show is that we added some additional option to some of the your favorite nodes. The tile generator typically has new modes. So you can switch to a normal size mode, which allows you to control the size of the shapes much better. There's a keep ratio mode where no matter the X amount or Y amount of shape you have, the ratio will stay the same. And then there's an absolute mode where, again, no matter the X and Y amount of shape, the size of the shapes will stay the same. So until now, you basically had to, if you change the amount of shapes, it would change the size as well. So you would have to account for it and kind of modify, take that into account in functions and everything. Now this is all much easier to play with. And the last mode is the pixel mode, where you can have each shape being one single pixel. And that's really useful for creating advanced noises like Voronoi, for example, where we can use this with the distance node. And the distance node has some new modes as well that will allow you, as you'll see here, to create some really cool kind of sci-fi paneling. So this is kind of default Voronoi, and then if we switch the modes, we can get some really cool paneling going on here. And next up, the other one I'm going to show you is a cross-section node. It's a new node that is to take a noise and take a cross-section of it on one of the pixel, and then you can play with tons of different settings to change the look of that cross-section to do all kind of things. So you can have it polygons or smooth, and you can have a gradient over it. So you can do a lot of FX work using this to create particles and animated textures. It's really, really fun to play with. And finally, the last feature that I'm going to show today, even though there are more stuff that we'll unveil later on, is that you can now set a default color on the input nodes. So until now, if you had input nodes in your graph, if they were color, they would just default to transparent. And if they were grayscale, they will default to black. And there is no really way to go around it. Now you can actually choose a default color, a specific default color for each input node, which means that, for example, if you have a filter that takes a normal map as an input, you can set it so that if nothing's plugged in it, it has a normal color, a default normal color in it. It allows you to have those filters output something that makes sense, even though you didn't plug anything in it. So again, super, super useful feature. That's it for our tour of the next version of Designer. And now we can switch on to Medium.
Hey, Jérémie, real quick, man. I got to say, I saw the demo of the cross-section node today with Nicholas, man. It is quite awesome.
Yeah.
some of the things he did. Yeah.
Know.
And
you're going to be able to do so many like cool little other filters using that node. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I wish I could say more, but I saw some other nodes too that were quite amazing. So I can't wait till we can talk about it. Sorry, I had to tease it out there, but yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. So Medium, a lot of you guys have been waiting for a long time for a Medium update, and we know it's been a long time, but it's finally almost here. So in August, so in less than a month, in a couple of weeks, Medium 2.4 will be released, and there's a couple of cool things in that release. You can freeze layers, bake to mesh. You can export polymeshes to sculpt. You can import sculpt into other sculpts. And there's a lot of other features as well. One of them being really cool is that you can, now the Medium process will not stop if you take off your helmet. So if you take off your headset, which means that you can launch an export process or something that takes a long time and put aside your headset, and it will still go on. The last thing is the studio share is working again. There was a feature that that got broken in the previous version, and it's working again. And we have a video over here of the studio share working in that new version of Medium. So for those of you who've never used Medium or haven't used studio share, what it allows you to do is to invite other friends and other artists to kind of sculpt together, which is really cool. So here, if we're working on something, we can launch Studio Share, and we can invite somebody to share their experience with us. And so we're sending the invitation. That person on the other side will get a notification that somebody wants to sculpt with them. So they may be working on something entirely different, another sculpt. And there we go. We're gonna join the same session here. And now we're basically two people in the same space, sculpting each on their side their little object or scene. And you can gesture to one another, you can chat with one another. It's just a fun social experience, especially when a lot of us are stuck at home today. It's a really cool addition to Medium. That's it for all our news about the tools themselves. We have something to show you as to do with research, and for that I'll let Sebastian take it over.
Mute myself. Okay, it takes infinite time. Yeah, thank you, Jérémie. Like, actually, yes, I love this this way of working together in Medium. Actually, it was present before. It was just stopped for some reason at some point, and then now it's back. So that's good to see, especially again during these times. And it is. So a few words before actually launching the video here that will illustrate what I will be talking about Adobe Research and Lab. So coming from the Substance world, we already had like an internal lab, and one of the great things about Adobe is that this lab that is called Adobe Research is huge and big, and it's very, very productive. And it's actually, when you look at the number of publications at conferences like SIGGRAPH, 3D dedicated conferences, Adobe is one of the biggest contributors. And above like prestigious universities like Stanford or others. And actually, we as Adobe, we do more research than many other companies out there, and especially in this field of 3D and rendering and visualization. So it speaks for the future, and this is one of the big reasons why we're so excited at 3DI. 3DI being the division dedicated to 3D and immersive design at Adobe. And we're extremely excited about the future because we love innovation, and we're in the perfect place for innovation to be transformed and conveyed into products. And so the combined power of the labs inside of that very division and Adobe Research as a whole is incredibly exciting. And this is a series of things that we are currently working on. That it's not everything is in there, but like these are the few teasers about the future. We like to tease, and we like to say then it will become a reality in the product soon. So we like to do that. We like to anyway make fun of ourselves. But yeah, this is great. These guys are wizards, and if you could launch the video now, that'd be great. These are some examples of nice stuff coming up.
All right, awesome. I just like to reiterate one time that these are experiments and prototypes. They may end up with one product, multiple products, no products at all. We're just researching stuff and exploring stuff. So no ETA on any of those coming to products, but we're really excited to at some point bring them to you guys. Next up is events. So even though, again, a lot of events, most events have been canceled or postponed or modified this year, we will be at SIGGRAPH. So SIGGRAPH this year is a virtual SIGGRAPH, and we'll have a virtual booth, and we'll have talks and some really cool stuff we'll be showcasing, again, mostly from the research side of Adobe at SIGGRAPH this year, and that will be August 24th to 25th. And we'll also have some other live streams. On August 25th, we'll have Erin and Gotham from Spin VFX. We'll be talking about the use of Substance in Zombieland 2 for their VFX work. And on August 27th, the Substance Painter team will do live streams. So we'll be able to chat with the engineers and designers behind Substance Painter. And Damien Guimeno will be here too. If you don't know Damien, is the artist behind the dragon that we use for the new release of Painter. And you may also have seen his work as the main character artist for The Lion King, where he designed the main lions, which is pretty amazing. And finally, in October, the Max conference will be taking place. Max is the annual kind of big Adobe conference, and we'll be there. The 3D branch of Adobe will be there, and we'll again have some workshops and talks and announcements around that time. So, as it says here, expect the unexpected. And I think we're done for today. We can probably switch to Q&A now.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. That's awesome. So yeah, now we're going to move over to a little Q&A section. I'm still kind of digesting some of that material as well from what you showed. So yeah, it's really cool, man. I love the, I don't even know what to say. I love the mesh-based workflows, I guess I'll say, from that research video. I love modeling, so I'm pretty excited about that myself. So I'm grabbing these questions. We have Vincent was in the chat, and he was putting together a list of questions for us. And so why don't we just dive in and take a look at that? So let's see here. Vincent's awesome, man. He has everything categorized for us. So let's just jump in with Painter. So number one here, will multi-channel images work for projecting skin pores in Painter now, or do we need to separate each channel? I think they're talking about that with maybe UV tiles with projecting skin pores.
Yeah, you can already today have project materials. So if you have a scan from XYZ pictures, for example, you'll be able to. I know they pack those in different RGB channels. So you may have to just unpack them in Photoshop and bring them as separate images. But then you can put them into the different channels of your roughness, height, and everything, and you can kind of stencil or paint them all at the same time.
Okay, this one's pretty open, I guess. What's the next big feature for Painter? Like, I guess I'll rephrase this. What's the next feature that we're going to spend like 7 years working on?
I don't think we can say anything yet. We have some pretty big stuff in the works, but it's a little too early to say. Hopefully, it won't take us 7 years.
Yeah, we need to do that again, like we did with UV tiles. Let's finish that and let's jump into like something that takes that long again. I'm sure Christoph would love to do that.
Yes.
Okay, so this one here is, I didn't understand what the color picking feature was. So I think it was when you had the robot head and you were just using the mask by color selection. So they just didn't understand what that was doing, masking. Is it ID mask? Can you?
Yeah, it was ID mask. Yeah, I didn't explain that. It was basically ID map. So we baked, when we bring in the mesh, when we build a mesh in Maya, for example, we assign different colors to different part of the mesh. And when we bring that into Painter, we can use it to mask where the materials will go. So that's what all those colors were.
Okay, cool. Okay, here's one. When will you introduce 8K and fix performance issues in 4K?
So 8K painting is it's a little complicated, of course, on the performance side. Performance is always improving. Again, I think 4K performance is already much better in this release, and we'll still have way to go. And our engineers know there are some things that we can fix, and we have some paths we can follow to improve the performance, I would say. So expect performance to improve over time with each new release. It's likely not going to be like suddenly everything is super smooth at 8K, but over time, gradually will improve performance.
Yeah. And then here was a question just asking about no lasso in Substance Painter for selection and things like that. Any comments on that? We need to have a lasso tool.
I know. It's been again a long-standing request. Maybe that'll be the next thing. I don't know. No, but it's something that we're looking at as well. There's a lot of things we're looking at for the next version.
Speaking of this, another question was just asking about text layer. So it's asking, it needs text layer. And then the question was, is it basic? I guess like we do have some small text support where you can use the text input of a substance, but like, what about native text support in Painter? Is it something you guys are looking at?
It's something that I'm not looking at that right now, but I know, again, it's a request that a lot of people have, and that's something that may come into Substance Painter at some point. I can't give an ETA yet, but.
Okay, so this one was, when will Designer and Painter have the ability to bake displacement maps? Currently, they're using ZBrush Multi-Map Exporter and can't get their maps to work in Painter. So
Designer can bake displacement maps. Painter doesn't have this ability yet. But again, that's something that we'd like to add, especially the baking side of Painter is something that I want to give a little more love in the next year or so.
yeah, and I don't know, maybe it's in here somewhere, but I think I saw like a little follow-up question to that as well with 32-bit floating point. So you can do that, right? If you bake the displacement from Designer and save it as EXR, it will be at 32, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay.
And then in Painter, you have to just set your height channel to be 32-bit floating, but you can do it, yeah.
Okay, and this one was, do we have to make our ID maps or will it plug in for Maya like what Quixel has?
So you'll have to bake it, but basically if you set up your colors in Maya, or even if you don't, we can automatically bake one color per object potentially, for example. So it's just a simple step of activating the baker for the ID map.
Okay. How good is the UDIM performance with 4K maps? I guess if you're painting in 4K.
It's pretty good. I would say if you're painting, so the thing is, if you're painting on 5 or 6 channels at the same time, of course, that means we have to update 6 4K maps at the same time, and no app can do that today. And Painter will maybe struggling if you don't have like a beefy machine. But if you paint 2, 3 channels at a time, or if you're stenciling something or projecting an image, it should be pretty good. We've been working for the Dragon, for example, that we showed during the release was worked at 4K, and we have a lot of people during the beta phase who were working at 4K with a lot of UDIMs.
Okay. This question here was asking, are these structure procedural models all triangles? Any chance to get quads? I think that was a question that showed up under the research video, but Vincent put it in the Substance Painter category.
Was it about the remeshing? Probably.
Maybe so. I think I may have seen that one pop up. Maybe so. I'm not sure where that one came in. We'll blame Vincent on that one.
Yeah, the remeshing that we showed is a in-house solution for indeed triangulated meshes, but we also have work being done on quad meshes as well. So it's not limited to triangles.
Okay. And this question was, I want to combine my Z displacement and height map for VFX render, not real-time render. So they need all information displacement map, ZBrush displacement and substance height. How can they do that? I guess they're asking, can they combine their Z displacement map with substance height?
Yeah, you can do it. In Painter, it's not by default, but in Painter you can activate the displacement channel, and then you can bring that your displacement map in there. And then you can paint on the height map to add to that displacement. So you could combine both.
Okay, and I think like in the layer stack, the height and everything you bring in set to combine automatically in the blending mode. In Substance, we can combine our normal map with texture normal map, or we can replace as well, and we can only keep the texture normal map. Can we do that with height as well? And this is again under Substance Painter.
Yeah, it should be the same set of options for height and the normal channel. You can choose to combine and replace for each layer or between the bake and the stack. Yeah.
Okay. At one point, Painter was shown as a hybrid VR app. What happened to that, and how did Medium joining the team change things for VR support in Painter?
Seb, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, we don't know yet for Painter. We have a version of Painter running in VR. It's very much up in the air what it's what we want to do with that and how we want to combine the two. First step was really to get the first Adobe version of Medium out. So that took longer than expected for various reasons. And now that it's going to be out, now that we can start combining things. Also on the Painter side, you've seen we've been very busy working on these heavily requested features. UDIMs and the UDIM support. So that has been keeping everybody busy. But definitely, you get it right. Like the fact that we have a VR sculpting app and a VR version of Substance Painter, yes, that could work very well together. And that's but that's only the beginning. So that's you will show more. The more we get into modeling because of Medium, because of the structure. Little demo we've shown, everything that we're doing around it, everything that's happening at Adobe Research, everything that we haven't shown. There is a lot going on, and you will get to know more in the next year or so.
Okay, cool.
Teasing.
Thank you, Seb. Yeah, teasing. Yeah, I'll keep going, man. We have a lot of questions. So I'm going to keep going here until either Vincent or Tao cut me off, I guess. So I'm waiting for them to tell me what to do. There's tons of questions, which is awesome. So this one here was asking about that new ray trace render. I think, again, it was shown in the research video. So it was like, is that something that we're looking to replace iRay at some point? Or, what do we think?
That will be more a complement to our real-time rendering. So it's an extension of the rasterizer more than a replacement for the rasterizer. So it's a real-time ray tracing.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, we will still combine techniques from both worlds. We're working on improving heavily the rendering, and so this is part of that bigger story of what about next gen rendering at Adobe. What does that mean?
Be interesting to find out.
Yes.
You will find out eventually.
You will find out. Yeah. Again, not too far from now.
Yeah. I'll say I guess this is like a side joke, it's like, I'm looking at our internal channels, even myself, and there's all these things going on, and it's crazy how much is going on, because even myself, there'll be things like, I'm like, oh, that'd be really cool. I want to see what they're doing. But then it's like, oh, there's so much other stuff. I don't have time to look at this. So sometimes there's so many cool things happening. I don't even look myself. I'm like, oh, I'll just find out. I'll be surprised later, so anyways,
but it's
you guys are on fire.
You are on fire as well, but you're part of the team. But basically, this idea of I lose track myself, I have to say. Yeah. But yeah, because we're very much alive. That's one key message. We're very much alive. We're very, very ambitious, very still as passionate as before. And yes, we love innovation. We love our users. We love to bring new stuff, and we love to reinvent ways of being creative. And it's infinite, really, when you think about it. That the amount of research that is happening now is enormous. So that means that there is a lot to be done in this world, in fact. So our mission is definitely to come up with something cool and have fun in the process and be successful in the process, obviously. And success is a byproduct of good products. Exactly. And not the other way around, right? So it's working on it.
Okay, yeah, definitely. So another one, any ETA on a pen tool in Painter? Yeah, that's a big one, man. I need a pen tool as well.
A pen tool. Interesting.
Yeah, like a pen, making curves, things like that.
Oh, yeah, okay. That eventually will come. No, yeah. Again,
that's the 7 year. That's the one. That's the 7 year.
That may be a 7 year.
Curves.
No, we're going to try to make it in a little less time than 7 years. But it's a big one. It would be a huge improvement to kind of the range of possibilities that you have in Painter. So we're yeah, it's something we're looking at closely.
Well, speaking of years, this question was like Painter's 5 years old now. Like, so how old is it?
It's
Painter
more
is
like
7,
six
right?
or seven. Yeah, 7.
I
I think
Started like really,
end of
yeah,
2013, right?
yeah. But the first, again, if you want to know the story, the first some first prototypes for particle-based painting were done in 2004. But it's not, that code is not in Substance Painter, but still, that the ID emerged at that time. And then, yeah, no, it's more like 7 years old. Yeah, and it's been released 6 years ago.
Yeah,
somewhere around that, right?
Okay, this question was on UV tiles. Will there be support for single geo across tiles?
Not sure what this question is about. If it's about geometry crossing over tiles, that's not possible. I don't think there will be. I'm assuming that's the question. Having one piece of geometry going across multiple tiles, like one triangle, that won't be possible.
Okay. This one's, when will we be able to import export layers and import export Substance Painter file projects?
Import export layers.
Yeah, I think like say you had 2 painter projects and maybe you want to say, well, I'm going to import, these 3 layers from one project to another, maybe like that, or I guess, importing one project into another, like I guess merging layers, something like that.
We used to be able to copy and paste stuff from one project to another. It was introducing a lot of issues in the data, and so that was removed. I don't know if we'll come back at some point. I know it was very complex because project can be very, very different in the way the data is structured based on the channels and all kind of things. So it's more complicated than it seems.
Okay, let's see. This one here was, I was thinking of switching to Mari just because of UDIM support. Do you think you can now handle UDIMs as much as Mari?
That's a tough question. I don't think I don't think Painter can scale as much as Mari. Mari is a beast that was made for extremely high-end assets. When you can load hundreds of 16K tiles, Substance Painter is not doing that. So it really depends on your need. If you need something that is the highest of the ends, if you need to do the Millennium Falcon with hundreds and hundreds of UDIMs, Mari is probably your best choice. If you want to do
Substance Designer.
A Substance Designer, yes. But Painter, I think, will be able to handle most use cases in VFX and animation.
Okay, so any way to activate symmetry on multiple axes in Painter? I think so, right?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. When you use a symmetry tool, you can actually choose one, a multiple axis, or choose a radial symmetry as well.
Okay. This next one's a big one. When are we going to hear about exporting multiple materials into one texture?
So that, I guess that's merging texture sets, right?
Yeah.
So we actually have a working plugin internally. It's not been released yet because it's not entirely finished. We have to review it and make sure it works in all cases, but we have something in the works.
Cool. So the next one, the color swatch, any ETA on this? I think we're going to rework the color picker in Substance Painter, right? Isn't that supposed to happen?
It's planned.
Yeah.
Sooner than later.
Sooner than later.
Yeah. No ETA, but
okay.
Soon.
And I guess that would include like swatches and things, I believe, right? I think.
Yeah, probably less than 7 years.
Okay. Okay. This is a curious one too. Like, so this Painter needs Windows Ink to use tablet pressure, and it becomes slow. Any plans on making it work without Windows Ink?
So that's actually not possible because of the framework we use for Painter, so Qt. The newer version that we're using only support Windows Ink. So we're stuck with Windows Ink, and we're trying to make it work as best as we can. I know there are still a few issues that people are encountering, but we're trying to make it as smooth as possible. But there is no way to not use Windows Ink at this point.
Yeah, and we also work with Wacom as well on these issues.
Yeah, we're working very closely with Wacom. We have discussions all the time, and we beta test all our drivers and everything. So yeah, working closely with them on that.
Okay, so why is it not possible to have 2 or more versions of Painter or Designer running at the same time?
So it
actually, I think you can. I just had that yesterday.
It is possible. It's not recommended just because there is so much data that can be the data, for example, from the shelves or from the libraries need to be in the right format for the version that you're using, because we always change the format of the data to improve it, to optimize it, and things like this. So having 2 versions can introduce some data mismatch, and you may have some issues with project that you cannot open anymore, or issues with loading the shelves or libraries. So we don't recommend you can do it. We don't recommend doing it.
Okay. So that was mentioned earlier in the stream that some renders were created with both Medium and Painter. And do we have any plans for showcasing and tutorializing how creators are using both?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to do that, Wes, right?
Well, I would love to, because I got to say, I'm super pumped because Kelly just sent me a headset. I've never had a VR headset. You can see it's over here in the corner. She sent me an Oculus Rift S. So it just showed up, and I'm pumped. I can't wait to jump in and try with Medium. So that it's gonna be so much fun. It's cool.
Awesome.
This is a great question. So can we add or a request? Can we add backface culling while using the polygon fill?
It's also one of these features that seem easy, but it's actually very complicated. So again, hopefully at some point it will happen. It's not on our current roadmap, but it's much more complicated than it seems.
Yeah. That's a tough one, man. That's an annoying thing. So are the UV tools going to be expanded for more controllable UV layout?
Yes, we have a team working full-time on the UVs, and even though there was no significant update this time in Painter, we are working hard on the UV tools, and there'll be more options, more improvements in the near future.
Awesome. I'll say it says when I have multiple tier one. Okay, this question here was just about the texture set combining. There's a few duplicate questions Tao was telling me, so you hit that one already. Okay, is there a way to fix artifact geometry at the UV seam when using displacement so we can get a better sculpt in Painter?
Again, this is hard. Having displacement without any cracks on the UV seams is complicated unless you use a baked displacement map. Just because it depends on the normal of the vertices of the seams. I know there are some ways to fix cracks or to fill them somehow. We don't have such a shader in Painter today. Again, it may happen in the future, but it's not a priority right now.
Any plans for a warp tool similar to Mari?
Yes, there are plans.
There's always plans.
I can't be more precise than that, but it's something that we started working on, so it is coming at some point.
Okay. Will Painter receive support for SVGs like Designer has?
Supporting vectors in general in all the tools is something we're looking at closely. Again, being at Adobe now, it makes a much more sense to support advanced vector graphics in all the different tools. Even in Designer, the support is not as good as it could be. So that will be an area of development and research in the future, for sure.
Okay. This one is asking, is there support for UV island crossing tiles? I guess that's just UV tile, or?
Yeah, you cannot have a UV island crossing over tiles. That was what I was saying before, one triangle across a tile. That's not,
okay.
Not possible.
All right. So this one says flat layer. I think they're talking about like, will there be any possibility to merge layers in the layer stack? Are we looking at that at all?
Not really, because it wouldn't. The way Painter is architectured, it wouldn't actually bring much in terms of performance, and it would make you lose a lot of the non-destructive aspect of the workflow. So we don't really want to let people collapse things, because I think it wouldn't really be that useful, but there may be alternative that we may look at. Typically, like I know Mari typically allows you to compress and cache some set of layers of folders. That's something that we could look at.
This one here is, can we specify the format for user channels in a custom painter shader? It says, meaning if a material outputs an RGB user channel, can I utilize all 3 channels in my shader? It says they
I'm
made
not entirely sure about this one.
Okay. It says last time they checked, they could not do this.
Yeah,
I think
it's probably still not the case.
Okay.
Because
I thought David Larson said something about this at one point.
Yeah, I don't think we have touched the shader API in a while, so it probably hasn't improved.
Okay, that one was a duplicate. Okay, sorry guys, just going through here. Any plan to be able to select texture set by clicking in the object in 3D view? I mean, I guess you can do that in a UV tile project.
Yeah, you can to select texture sets or UV tiles.
Oh, yeah, I guess it says that, yeah, any plan to select texture set by clicking on the object. Yeah, you have the shortcut.
Oh, you can already do that. It's Control Alt right click. I think it's a weird shortcut, but it's there.
Yeah, I don't remember it ever. Yeah, so I don't use it, but yeah, there is a shortcut. Yeah, again, that was asking about the marquee tool selections like square, rectangle, ellipse, stuff like that for selecting areas. I think you talked about that one already.
Yeah, well, hopefully at some point.
Oh yeah, this is a good one. Can we get a transform or a warp tool for the images we're projecting through? I think that's something you guys had talked about. I heard before.
Yeah, we talked about it, and we have ideas on how to build a system that will allow us to do that, among other things. Yeah, again, I can share more now, but we're thinking about it.
Okay. There's so many questions that are coming in. Okay, I'll keep going, guys, until someone tells me to stop. Let's see. Ability to use albedo values in the roughness channel. Not sure about that.
You can already do that. We're using anchor points. So basically, using anchor point, what you can do is create an anchor on your albedo and then reference that into your roughness. And so you'll be able to use those values into your roughness.
Yep. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm going to try to switch gears a little bit because we have some other things. Medium, designer, alchemist. Okay. A fun question here. Hey, Seb, did you make the music for the VFX demo reel?
No, I wish. But no, it's not me.
Yeah. Jérémie, what's the computer specs that you have for the demos you did today?
Here I have, I think my CPU is a Ryzen 2 or something. GPU is an RTX 2080, and I have 64 gigs of RAM.
Okay.
It's a fairly beefy machine.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna start just getting a little crazy and just jumping all over the place now in some of this. So how about Substance Alchemist AI for AMD GPUs? Is it possible?
Not today, because we're using libraries that are proprietary to NVIDIA. I don't know if that's something that will happen in the future. I can't really comment on it because I don't have all the technical details.
Okay, let's see here. I just got your note, Jérémie, about your stopping point. Let's see, 8K in Alchemist. I think can you export 8K in Alchemist, or is it 4K? I think it's just 4K, maybe.
Okay, if it's 4K, it's just an artificial limit. We should be able to go to 8K because it's just the Substance engine can do 8K. So
I might be wrong. Sorry, Baptiste, if you heard me say it, it was wrong. Let's see, designer. This is a great question. Any auto links between painter and designer?
So not today, but the interop between our tools at 3D&I and even other tools at Adobe is going to be one of the big focus this year and next year. And so you can expect to have better workflow between designer, painter, alchemist, Dimension, Medium, Photoshop, Illustrator, basically all the tools that are part of our ecosystem. You'll see those come closer and have workflows that really work much better between all of them. So I can say this is going to be a big focus in the next 12 months.
Awesome. So any designer shortcuts for node creation like in UE4? Yeah, that was added as one of the recent updates,
That
right?
was added, I think, late last year or in the spring. Yeah, in the preference, you have a dialog now where you can assign custom shortcuts to any node you want.
I like this question. Are there any plans for a breakthrough in modeling like how Substance Designer changed everything?
Go for it, Seb.
Yeah, that's you, Seb.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yes, as I was saying, it's not that, I mean, necessarily a technical breakthrough, or I mean, it could be many things, in fact. But yes, definitely, we want to tackle geometry next. Yes.
I think Substance wasn't so much of a technical breakthrough that it was a workflow shift in the workflow.
It's a mix of things. Yes, it's a mix of things, and the important part is the fact that we can multiply, let's say, by tenfold by a certain number of users who can actually produce art. And basically, I like to think that with Substance Designer, we made the creation of procedural textures and materials way more accessible than it was, even though it's a very technical tool. I like to also believe and think that, and I truly believe that Substance Painter helped grow the community of the texturing community and made texturing fun, and it's great. It's really now part of the creative process, whereas it was some kind of core before, I'm sure. And with modeling, we have ideas on how to expand it and make it more accessible. But more accessible doesn't mean like toyish. That's always the balance. We have to make sure that it's powerful, but we unlock things more than we make toyish tools. That's not the goal. Anyway, I hope that answers the question.
Point. Yeah, you want to produce art without having to be a complete scientist, like
that as well.
Let the tools do some of the heavy lifting, but again, don't take away the technical ability, as well, because that's super important.
Exactly.
Okay, so yeah, I'll keep going, Jérémie. I'm watching the time for you, man. This one is a big question here. Any plans on making Substance as part of the Adobe Creative Cloud?
So I can answer that. It's still nothing has changed since last time it was asked to us, and the whole COVID situation made it even more, I would say, complicated to decide on anything. But yeah, it's very much in the works what we want to do, how we will release the tools. But one thing for sure is that we want to connect with the rest of the tools and the family of tools from Adobe. So definitely for sure. Now we'll be part of that offering or that offering. We're still figuring that out. It's not done yet.
Okay, thanks.
So that means also the corollary to that. It means that don't expect changes in the next, I would say, year maybe, because the probability for it to change is low right now, because we don't know exactly what we're going to do.
Okay. So let's get into some more Medium questions here. So Medium VR headset working on Mac without Boot Camp. I'm sorry, I don't know, but Medium's Windows only, I assume. So any Mac support for that, or?
It will come eventually.
Yeah, I think definitely looking at supporting more platform on Medium in the future.
Will we ever see mesh-based sculpting in Medium?
Again, there's Medium is going to go for a lot of improvements in the next year or month. So we can't talk specifics yet, but you'll see a lot of cool new stuff coming to Medium.
Okay, awesome. This is a great question. Is the Oculus Medium team and the Substance team going to work close together?
Oh yeah. They are already. Yes, absolutely. awesome teams, and the Dimension team as well. And yeah, I mean, the whole 3D immersive team that I have the chance to lead is incredible. And yeah, we work as closely as possible. Obviously, it's a matter of like joining forces and at the same time keeping up with what we're supposed to do. But yes, there is a lot of love and things we can do together.
Yeah, and even though right now we're working from home, when we're at the office, we're literally sitting like 10 feet from each other. We talk all the time.
I think that's like one of the key things that maybe some people miss is that when you Seb, you had mentioned like these teams, we are all part of the same group. Like that's what 3D and immersive is. Substance, the Medium team, the Dimensions team, Mixamo. It's all of us as one unit.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay, so keep watching the time here, Jérémie. I'm trying to grab out as many as I can. Triangles, textures, layers, Substance Painter. Is there any limitation with any of that?
I don't think there's a hard limit. Of course, the more you have, the slower it will get eventually. But you can load, in terms of mesh, you can load 20 million polygons in Painter and it will work fine. And in terms of layer, I've never hit a hard limit. I don't know if there is one. I haven't tried to create like 1,000 layers in the project. Yeah, I don't think there is a limit other than just what your memory on your hard drive and on your RAM is.
Okay, great. Just looking for, we'll close it out here with just some one other question here. So this one is asking about a bridge between Substance and Photoshop, so we can use design and use this texture. I guess like maybe starting some design principles or textures from Photoshop and have that link into Painter, something like that.
Again, something we don't have today, but that we'll definitely look at. We're working with the Photoshop team on different subjects and how we can all work together. So a lot of exciting stuff coming.
Yeah, exactly. And we're working with the Photoshop team, Illustrator, After Effects, every other tool in the Adobe family that can help. Like, I mean, they can work together, right? So it can go both ways, by the way. And yes, we have plans to make sure that the content flows very simply between all these tools.
Okay, great. Any ideas about, I guess this one's asking about switching renders, but do we have any plans to support other renderers? Like right now, I guess we have iRay. We showcase some of our own like rendering plans. Do we have any plans to support any other renderers? I mean, you can export through render presets to work with that, but do we have any other kind of plans for rendering support?
I don't think we have concrete plans, but we're not opposed to it. Definitely not. We'd be open to support third-party renderers for sure.
Okay, this is another Painter question, Jérémie. On this is a good question. Will we be able to change texture set names within the export window as well?
Good question. I know the export dialog is not entirely finished. We had to cut some things for the UDIM release, so there's still improvements to be done here, and typically that could be one of them.
Okay, this one is, are you looking at improving the anchor system? So like basically a point to quickly bake height info into mesh textures would be helpful. It says right now the current use is a little cumbersome in the setup. I think we talked about that, like some automated setups. You know, like right now when you have an anchor, you have to hook it to the generator like manually. Any kind of auto setups, presets for that?
We've had some talks internally about how we can streamline that process. And again, there's no concrete plans today, but we're definitely talking to designers and trying to find ways to make that anchor point process a little smoother.
Okay, great. Okay, well, guys, thanks. I think we'll go ahead and set this up for a conclude. I wasn't able to get to all the questions here. I know you have a hard stop here coming up in just a few minutes. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and conclude this. And I do want to thank everyone for joining us here today. Seb, Jérémie, it's always awesome to hang out with you guys. Too bad we have to do it virtually. I can't wait for the days when we're all back together again. It's so much fun. But I'd just like to say to everybody else, please stay tuned to our social media outlets for news and updates. We've got so much stuff to share. We got a lot of live streams coming up, as Jeremy had mentioned. And just stay safe, everyone. Take care, and we will see you on the next streams. One more shout out to Vincent. Happy birthday, man. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Seb. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.